All right. I'll kick it off, and if anyone joins after, they can come on in. But thank you everyone for joining our masterclass today. We're going to be talking about how to level up your SMS marketing. Before I kick it over to Brandon, wanted to give everyone kind of, a little update on what our masterclass sessions are and kind of, what we're doing here today. So here at Okendo, which we are a reviews platform, we really wanted to bring in some of our agency partners that are on the pulse of the most relevant and top of mind topics in e-commerce and bring those to our Okendo community. So really the idea for today is to be able for everyone to come out of this with actionable insights. And it's really interactive. So we'll be answering questions throughout the presentation. So if you do have any questions, please pop them into the chat. And then throughout the presentation, we'll be answering them rather than leaving Q&A throughout the end. So again, feel free to ask anything that you guys want. We'll make sure to answer that. And then actually one quick thing too about that, please make sure to direct your questions in the chat to both panelists and attendees so that everyone can see those. And then, yeah, at the end of this, everyone will receive a recording of the webinar and a copy of the presentation deck as well. So with that, I will kick it off to Brandon.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's just dive right into it. So today we're going to be basically covering every component of SMS marketing and also dive into some specific examples about how our agency is using it. But to start, I'll start off with a quick intro for those of you who aren't familiar with electrIQ and sort of dive into what we do and specifically our experience within SMS marketing. So me personally, I am the founder of electrIQ and I oversee our lifecycle department. So primarily email and SMS, but also like how does email and SMS play into like our loyalty and referral programs, our overall customer retention strategy? How are we pushing subscriptions? How are we using tools like Okendo to better engage customers post-purchase as well? And some of the brands we work with are like Soylent, Florence by Mills, Foria, Men's Warehouse, Health Aid. Usually they're Shopify or Shopify Plus brands. We do go outside of the Shopify scope a little bit as well. We're all based in San Diego, and we're a 30 to 35 person team that's really all focused on e-com. We oversee lifecycle marketing primarily, but we also oversee SEO and content, social media, as well as web design and development to sort of bring everything full circle. So to start, we're going to cover list building, which is honestly probably the most important component of getting an SMS program off the ground. For us, like we know launching any brand on SMS or coming into a new client and working with them on SMS, the success of the program is really going to be dictated by how many subscribers we can get onto the list. Because we know we have these tried and true methods that are going to scale and convert, but if there's only 50 people on the list, you're just not going to be able to see the returns that are necessary. So to start, you have your standard pop-ups, welcome pop-up, exit pop-up, but what we like to do is to utilize the tap to subscribe functionality. So if you're not familiar with tap to subscribe, essentially what it is a CTA button that on mobile, if your site visitor clicks it, it's going to automatically open up their text message thread with a message pre-populated to your shortcode that when you press send, it's automatically going to opt them in. So for some of our clients on mobile, we actually completely forego email capture in place of the tap to subscribe because it's such a better customer experience, much more seamless. If you think about it, you're pressing the tap to subscribe. All you have to do is press send, and then you automatically get the offer right within that text message thread. Whereas if we were to do email capture, you enter your email, you have to go to your email inbox, you have to find the email, you have to click through on it. It's just a much slower process. And something we've also even experimented with is sending direct to checkout links in text as well for that intro offer. So for a visitor who clicks on that link, it literally takes them right into Shopify checkout with the products added and the discount already pre-populated. And if they have Shop Pay, it's basically 2 clicks to purchase from there. Another big one is texting a keyword to whatever your short code is or whatever your toll-free number is for a certain percentage off your order. So you can include this on inserts within packages that go out. You can drop this in Instagram posts. You can basically put this anywhere that visitors are going to potentially see it. And then you can also, jumping ahead to the fourth one here, even potentially use a QR code for this instead. So something we've done with brands like Off Limits Cereal is all of their packaging has a QR code on it. And if you scan it, you're going to go down a specific journey depending on the product that you are scanning. And so it's a really great way to engage customers at scale and start to set up some of these personalized SMS journeys. Another one is the Instagram tap to subscribe story. So we'll do this both organically, but also via Facebook ads as well. And what this allows us to do is when you tap on the link that you placed on your Instagram story, it's going to use the same functionality that the tap to subscribe pop-up uses, and it's going to open up that text thread automatically. You just press send, and then they get the offer right away. So it's a good, really strong way to capture your organic traffic, but also if you want to get and start to experiment with new like Facebook ad strategies, especially with the iOS 14 updates, getting them onto an own channel is really great because then you're better able to determine what the ROI is, and you're not dealing with the discrepancies in the Facebook ads reporting. And one pro tip there is save it as a highlight in your Instagram or on your Instagram page, because then any net new visitor who comes to your Instagram page can see like, oh, there's an SMS sign up, and then they can do the tap to subscribe and they'll get your intro offer. One that's really powerful for brands that haven't started SMS marketing yet are the email campaigns. So we'll send out an email promoting the exclusivity of the SMS list, or hey, you're going to get your Black Friday offers from us a day early if you sign up for SMS. And we'll send that email out to our segments that are not subscribed to SMS yet. And on desktop, we'll send them to the landing page where they can enter their phone number. But on mobile, we're using the tap to subscribe button, where they just click it and it'll automatically open their text message thread. You can do this pretty easily in Klaviyo. You can just say only show this CTA on desktop, and then you can say only show this CTA on mobile. And so for the desktop mobile, or for the desktop CTA, you're sending them to the landing page. And for the mobile CTA, you're going to put that tap to subscribe link in there. To really supercharge this, put it in your post-purchase flow. So you can set up a conditional split in Klaviyo where you'll segment out SMS subscribers versus not SMS subscribers. And for those who aren't subscribed to SMS, just have a conditional block there that will show up that will drive them to that landing page or drive them to tap to subscribe with some sort of a bounce back offer. That's really powerful in terms of like an evergreen SMS lead gen strategy as well. Are there any questions about lead gen before we move on into the next section here?
Just one question about repeating the last part. So about the conditional block.
Got it. So in Klaviyo, if you set up a post-purchase flow, you can conditionally split, and this also depends on which SMS provider you're using. So whether you're using like Attentive, Klaviyo, or PostScript, it'll be a different contact property, but it basically will say like accepts SMS equals true or accepts SMS does not equal true. So that's what you conditionally split off of in your post-purchase flow. And for those who aren't opted into SMS marketing, in that email, you would include like a block that incentivizes sign up. So get 20% off your next order or get a free gift with your next purchase if you sign up for SMS marketing. So that's what we'll typically set up for our brand.
One other quick thing before we move on from that. So is that a setup? That is a setup on the Klaviyo side, correct?
Correct, yeah. Awesome, so that covers list building. Now we're gonna dive into the top flows that your store needs to be successful with SMS. So these don't have to be complicated, but these are sort of the basics in terms of what you want to roll out with to make sure your SMS program is gonna be successful from the start. Everybody knows about a welcome flow, welcoming those new subscribers who just signed up for your intro offer, whether it's a percentage off or a free gift with purchase. Then you have your standard abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. Abandoned cart being people who add to cart but don't actually begin the checkout process, and abandoned checkout being people who do start the checkout process but don't finish the purchase. And you have browse abandonment, so people who are viewing your website or product page but don't add to cart. Post-purchase, and to start, you can just have a simple post-purchase flow, but this is where you can start to differentiate between like a one-shot purchase versus a subscription customer. You can start to differentiate between whether this is their first order, their fifth order, their 10th order, and really start to make it a lot more personalized to help increase retention and use personalization in your messaging. Then, of course, you have a review request, which you will send out via Okendo, which will go through your SMS platform. And then sort of the one that you really don't necessarily need to launch with, but I'd highly encourage everybody gets creative with how to use it, conversational flows. So conversational flows are essentially sending a text to your subscriber, asking them to reply either with keywords or with a number. And then depending on that response, it'll branch them down a different part of your flow. So the easiest example here is we set up like a coffee quiz in SMS for one of our brands. And so when somebody signs up, they get a text that says, do you like ground or whole bean coffee? Like reply 1 for ground, reply 2 for whole bean. Once they reply, not only do we store that as a data point for segmentation later on, but we're branching them down a different path in this conversational flow that we've set up. Then there's about 3 other questions that they have to answer. And then ultimately they get to a special product recommendation for them with an offer associated with it. Now, if they don't convert, then they continue to go down that flow. But we also get to keep all of that zero-party data for segmentation later on, which is really powerful. And if get even crazier with that, you can take that and push it to like a Facebook or to other platforms so that you can make sure you're using that personalization across all of your different channels. And then we already covered this in the lead gen slide, but that post-purchase email to non-SMS subscribers is a really great way to grow that SMS list, especially if you have heavy penetration on the email side. That's going to be a really strong one for every brand.
Brandon, I have 2 questions on this. So one came from, so once SMS setup, will it automatically pull the info and then we can create a list flow, or is it automatically created? That might be in relation to the SMS block again, potentially.
Got it. Sorry, could you just repeat that question again?
Sure. So once SMS is set up, it will like pull the info in and we can create a list, or will it automatically, or will the list automatically be created from anyone who signs up from SMS in Klaviyo?
Okay, got it. So it depends on the integration. Like we are typically using like Attentive or PostScript, and you just have to create a segment in Klaviyo that looks at the property that Attentive or PostScript is passing over into Klaviyo. It usually is just like accepts SMS equals true. And so in Klaviyo, what you'll do is you'll just create a segment where you'll look for every contact that has that particular property. It just depends on which SMS platform you're using, what the specific vernacular is that you have to use in Klaviyo to set that up.
Great. And then one other question, is there a general rule of thumb for how often I should be texting subscribers?
So it's a little bit across the board, different depending on the brand. And there's a couple of reasons for that. For one, different demographics. So like we work with Florence by Mills, whose audience is heavily, I'd say like 14 to 20-year-old female. So text messaging for them is the strongest channel, even beats out email. Whereas if you work with, when we're working with our coffee client, whose demographic is probably 45 and up, the adoption there just isn't the same. So we really have to take a strong look at the engagement rates for the campaigns that we are sending out and for the flows to be able to determine what that optimal sending cadence is. So like metrics that we track very closely are obviously unsubscribe rate and click-through rate. We also like to take a look at earnings per message sent as well, and the cost associated with that message. So that's really important to note, because with email, you don't pay per email sent out. With text, you do. So you could send out a text campaign to 50,000 subscribers and it makes you, let's say $50,000, but they could cost a ton because you're using a GIF, you're using an emoji in there. So it's like ends up being like a 50-cent text that you just sent or whatever it may be. So it's really important to keep a strong handle on what your cost per text sent is as well, and the revenue you're getting per each message that goes out. To start, I would just, if you're like worried about internal resources and bandwidth, just like pick a cadence that you know you can stick with that will allow you to run simple A/B tests that you can iterate off of. Like, don't tell yourself you're going to do 12 campaigns per month and you're going to set up all these different flows if you're not able to maintain that consistently. Just maybe go for 3 a month or 4 a month. Do something, basically be incremental in your growth and your approach to it.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. Perfect.
Any other questions on flows before we go to the next one?
One just came in. So how do you collect demographic data regarding your audience if you don't have it?
So a really good way to do that is to set up a post-purchase survey. We will use Enquire Labs a lot, and you can ask for that particular information at checkout. And we see across our stores roughly 55 to 70% of people will actually fill out the survey as well, which frankly was shocking for me because I would not fill out a post-purchase survey, but it's very powerful in terms of us being able to use that in segmentation in Klaviyo and SMS platforms as well. And then the other one is to ask for it in your Okendo review requests. So when we're sending out a review request with Okendo, we're asking for age brackets. So like, are you 18 to 25, 26 to 34, 35 to 49, or whatever the particular segments are. And then that allows us to know what our mix and makeup is of consumers. And then from there, you could even say like, oh, 35 to 44 is giving us on average like 4.6 star reviews, but 25 to 34 is giving us on average 4.1. And then you can start to dig into some of that data as well.
Great. And then is there also potentially the opportunity to send an engagement SMS and ask, for demographic data via the SMS?
Yeah, you could do a conversational flow around that, sort of as like a post-purchase. One conversational flow that we recently did with our wine client is automatically at purchase, you get a text basically asking you, when do you want us to remind you to replenish? And so not the same as capturing demographic data, but just shows you that not every text has to be driving clicks to the website. For us, that's informing like when the replenishment reminder is going to go out. So you could send them a post-purchase test asking them for that information.
Great. And then just one final. So Enquire Labs, correct? That was the name you mentioned for the surveys. And then how will data be collected if they reply and say once a month or every week?
Got it. So if they reply once a month or every week, it's just dependent on how you set up that conversational flow. So when you set it up, you'll say like reply 1 for once a week or reply 2 for once a month, and then that gets stored in your platform.
We have a little visitor in the background.
Yeah, she's a little guard dog here.
She's getting excited about SMS flows. It's okay. I think that's
any other questions before we move on to the next one?
I think we're good to move on.
Perfect. And then this is actually just an example of that conversational flow that I was talking about. So in this example, you can see this is the coffee one that I had mentioned. So if somebody replies with they like light roast, they go down this branch. If they like medium roast, they go down this branch. If they like dark, they go down this branch. And if they don't reply within 2 days, we send them down here and send them a different text. So this is just an example of how you set that up. And then in terms of segmentation, you just split or you just segment off of the response. So you'd say like coffee preference equals medium. And that's how you would be able to segment that group. So that leads us into segmentation. And ultimately segmentation, why it's important is so that we can personalize communication and send relevant messages to people who actually want to receive them. This helps you reduce unsubscribe rates, improve your ROI with SMS, because again, you're getting charged per text, and just allows you to have a more robust customer experience. So these are some of our favorite segmentation strategies. They're by no means exhaustive, but this is like a good starting point for you when you're getting off the ground with SMS. Some of them include engaged versus unengaged. Now, engaged versus unengaged is going to differ depending on the brand. For some, it's going to be, oh, they haven't clicked on a text in 30 days. So that's an unengaged group. Maybe we send them down a re-engagement flow. And if they don't re-engage, we take them off the list because, again, you're paying per every text. For engaged customers, you can give them like exclusive access to something, or you can thank them for their loyalty, whatever it may be. And then second is past purchasers versus non-purchasers. So this is really important when you are communicating with them. An example is we recently had a flash sale on a particular product for one of our clients. So what we did is we broke that out into two different segments: people who have purchased that product before and people who haven't. It was just very simply like, hey, you're a consumer of this product. We know because you purchased it before. Go ahead, here's 20% off. We think you'll really enjoy it. Whereas the messaging for the non-purchasers was completely different. It was a little bit more about the brand, some more education, and really helping them through that pre-purchase experience to get them to convert. Third is high intent. So somebody who's clicked on like a ton of text, but hasn't necessarily converted yet. Maybe they just need that extra little push to go ahead and finally convert. Fourth is location. So this is really important for any of our brands that have a retail presence. One of the things we do with one of our stores that's in Costco, it's like based off of the zip code, we can push them to in-store demos for that particular product. And so we'll do segmentation based off of that. And then the other one is VIP. So this can be based off of, like if you use a Loyalty Lion or a Yotpo, you can use the segmentation that they provide. If you don't have a loyalty program set up, you don't, and again, you don't have to. You can just use simple metrics like, oh, this person has spent $500 or more, or this person has purchased 5 or more orders. Like define what your VIP tiers and buckets are, whether you have it formalized with a tool like a Loyalty Lion or not, and then use that in your communication strategy.
So one question, so I know we talked a little bit about reviews data, survey data. Are there any other sources of data collection to help build more personalized SMS campaigns that you should be looking at?
So we really like using the Okendo and Attentive and Okendo and Klaviyo integration, where somebody leaves like a 4 or 5 star review, we automatically send them down a particular SMS flow. Either, let's say they're like a one-shot customer, we will tell them about all the benefits of the subscription program and why they should sign up for that. If they are already a subscription customer and they're leaving a positive review, we'll say, hey, why don't you go and refer your friends and you'll earn $10 or whatever it may be. On the flip side, somebody leaves a 1 or a 2 star review, we send them a text like one-to-one from the founder or customer success specialist or whatever it may be, reaching out and asking like, where did we go wrong? How can we make it better? And use that as a learning moment. And surprisingly, there was some study, I can't remember what it was, but customers who have a negative experience, who you reach out to and bring back to the brand and end up having a positive one, are actually more likely to repurchase from you and to promote your brand because you went the extra mile to make it right for them and to help them have a good experience with your brand. So it's actually a huge opportunity. Anybody who leaves a negative review, unless they just don't like the product, for you to help win them back, essentially.
Great. Don't see any other questions coming in, so good to go.
Awesome. Next, we're going to dive into A/B testing. So with A/B testing, before you get started with any tests, and you can go beyond this as well. So like you could do multivariate testing, but for the sake of this, we're going to focus on A/B testing. And multivariate testing is literally just like ABC testing or ABCD testing. So you're just testing more than 2 variations. Before you do any tests, you're going to want to identify one of these metrics as what is going to determine which one won out over the other. So any test you send out is either going to be focused on improving click-through rate, reducing opt-out rate, or increasing conversion rate. All of your tests should be targeting improving one of these metrics. And what we like to use is a statistical significance calculator for any of these. So just because one of your tests looks like it did better on paper, it might not be statistically significant. So there's simple online tools. Just look up statistical significance calculator and you can plug in your results and it'll tell you whether or not it was statistically significant. And the last recommendation here is set up some sort of a testing tracker template. So many times I see brands doing like a lot of really good A/B testing, but they're not like saving it in a way that's easily accessible for them to utilize and improve their testing moving forward. So a good example is like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is really not the time to be testing. That's when you should be sending what you know were your winners from the last 11 months. But if you can't easily pull like, oh, this is what performed best in January, then you're not going to be able to implement that strategy moving forward. And then here are a ton of examples, though again, not exhaustive, of types of A/B tests that you could run. A lot of it is based on the content, but you can also do it based on offers, based on segmentation, and also based on send time. Some of my favorites are the first person versus third person. So what that looks like is first person would be like a text from the founder. We see super strong results with just like getting one of our founders to take a selfie with their product and sending that out to their database. Convincing all the founders to do that is a little bit difficult, but it works very well. So I'd strongly encourage anyone, test that versus like sending it from the company, and you'll be shocked at how much better the response rate is and how much better engagement is. Another thing is like GIF versus still image versus video, or MMS versus versus SMS. You would think MMS would always outperform SMS, but that just isn't the case. It does vary brand by brand, but if you're a brand that can get away with just sending SMS, you're going to be saving a lot of money. And so make sure to test that pretty intensively, because if you can get away with just sending SMS, you definitely want to do that because you're going to be saving money and helping with your ROI. In terms of offers, you have your standard like percentage off, dollars off, tiered discounting, free shipping. This is where you would be doing a conversion rate test. So if you would send out like a 25% off versus a 30% off, you could do click-through rate, but this is where I like to do conversion rate testing. So you'd send to like 25% of your segment, see who converts more over the course of like a 6-hour period, then have the winning offer go out to the rest of the group. And then again, segmentation and send time. So we already touched on segmentation a bit. And then also for send time, experiment with sending in the morning, afternoon, evening, or also what day of the week. We've actually had a lot of success with like those Sunday afternoon sends because people are sitting on the couch on their phones. And so that actually can perform very well, where we found emails on Sunday actually don't typically perform as well.
Don't see any questions coming in on this one, but again, if you guys have any questions, doesn't need to wait till this section. So if anything comes up, please put it in the chat and we can get back to that as well.
And here's an example of like an MMS. It's like a tongue twister, an MMS versus an SMS test that we've run recently for Halloween. So pretty simple. One had a GIF, one did not. And then we sent it to 30% of their list, and the one that won out went to the rest of the 70%. So now I'm going to go into how to choose your SMS vendor, and essentially going through like the 5 that we're most familiar with. So to start, you have Attentive, and really where I think they perform best for our clients is enterprise brands and also companies that are looking for more of that like white glove support. They have robust opt-in tools. They have those really advanced conversational flows like you saw on the screen share a couple of minutes ago. The only downside to them is, well, I wouldn't say downside, but their compliance team is very good. So that comes with both pros and cons. For me, who likes to push the envelope a little bit, it can be limiting sometimes, but for brands who want to make sure that they're buttoned up with their SMS compliance, it's invaluable, because from an SMS compliance standpoint, you really do not want to, you really don't want to go against following the TCPA policies, because that will come with major fines and major implications for your business. Next is PostScript, where I think they have the strongest Shopify integration at this moment in terms of like the segmentation that you're able to do. You can also do things like reply to buy with recharge. So if you have a customer who has an upcoming order, you can get a text and it'll say, add this as a one-time product to your next order, just reply yes. And if you reply yes, it'll add that product to your next order, which is really powerful, because as a subscription customer, they're already getting that order, but now you're just increasing the order value for that package that was already going to go out the door anyways. The only downside right now with PostScript is that conversational flows are not possible yet. So getting and aggregating some of that zero-party data is a little bit more difficult at scale. Emotive is a really great platform for customer engagement. They have an extensive library of campaign templates and really robust conversational messaging. One of the downsides there, though, is that they don't currently have an A/B testing feature. So for a marketer like myself, who is really steeped in being able to test like MMS versus not MMS, and knowing that on a brand by brand basis it differs, it is a little bit limiting in that sense. Next is SMS Bump, which has really strong Yotpo integrations. So like if you're using Yotpo Loyalty and Referral and some of the other suite of products, this could be a good fit for you because of how well it plugs in with that ecosystem. Now, that being said, I do think there's stronger integrations with some of these other SMS platforms for non-Yotpo products, which kind of makes sense, because if SMS Bump is in the Yotpo family, the integrations within the Yotpo ecosystem are going to be a little bit stronger than they might be with like SMS Bump and Loyalty Line, for example. And then last but not least is Klaviyo. We have started to use Klaviyo SMS with more and more brands as they've started to build out some of the sort of standard SMS functionality that we are really looking for. And something that is interesting is they already have all of your email flows. So this is the one tool where like you can truly build out a succinct customer journey within the same flow, conditionally splitting by like, are they or are they not subscribed to SMS marketing? And you can visualize it all on one screen, which really is invaluable. And then the other thing is quick actions. So what quick actions are, and this is important for any brand that's on a subscription program with recharge, essentially what you're able to do is pass a link through to Klaviyo that if a customer clicks on it, it'll automatically take a predefined action in their recharge account. So one of the best use cases for that is subscription cancellation win back flow. So if you have a customer that cancels, you can send them a text out of Klaviyo automatically where if they click that link, it'll reactivate their subscription without them having to do anything else. So that's really powerful in terms of winning back subscription customers. And then there is still some downsides to Klaviyo's SMS platform though, like you're not able to do conversational flows yet. You're not able to integrate with some CS tools. So like Zendesk isn't there yet. But that being said, they have been investing pretty heavily in it. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And I'd preface all of this with saying that the SMS platforms change so quickly because they're all innovating at an extraordinary pace, frankly. It really depends like on your business and your use cases, which one's going to be best for you. Ultimately, it depends on like what your current tech stack is, how it plays with that, whether you're a subscription-based business or not. There's just so many factors that go into which tool is going to be the right one for you.
So Brandon, quick question on that came in. So which SMS platform have you ended up working with the most for your clients? And I know you just said that it really depends on everyone's situation, but which one have you like worked with most frequently?
So I really, not to give a non-answer answer, but I'd say it's about a third split between Attentive, PostScript, and Klaviyo, because it really, again, depends on the needs of the business. And also keep in mind that we're not choosing the software for every business either. Like a lot of times we'll start working with a brand and they already have their tech stack set up. So We're not coming in to completely rip everything apart and move them over because to get like a tiny different feature over on this other platform. But those are the three that we typically are using at the moment, at least.
All right.
Any other questions, or do we want to talk about Black Friday?
I think we're good to move on to Black Friday.
Perfect. So if I were you, these are the things that I would implement now for your SMS program in advance of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Email campaign to sign up for the SMS list in order to get early access to your Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals. This is like the lowest hanging fruit by far, in my opinion. Just get a engaged segment of your email contacts and send them an email this week, early next week. Tell them, hey, go sign up for this list. And if you do, we're going to send you early access to our Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals, so you can make sure that everything's still going to be in stock. You're not going to miss out on anything. And that has been really powerful for us, whether it's Black Friday or not. Like, we use that strategy to tease new product releases all the time. Random promotions, whatever it may be. This is a great way to just build your list. If you are able to, I would also add in that post-purchase email as well, incentivizing SMS signup, because you're going to be having a ton of customers, net new customers, come through on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And if they aren't signing up for SMS pre-purchase, then you want to make sure that you're building out your SMS list. So moving forward, you can retain them and get them to convert again. And what we see is SMS is a much higher converting channel than email. So if you can get some of those new customers onto your SMS list, so post Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you can get them to come back and make that second order. You're going to have a much easier time doing it if you have their phone number than if you just have their email. We already touched on A/B testing, but if you have an SMS program in place, now's the time to run all of your A/B tests, because you want to go with your best performers over the biggest weekend of the year. You don't, that's not the time to do testing. And then if you are on an SMS platform, you've seen all the warnings that have been sent out about like deliverability and using images versus just sending simple text-based text to make sure that your deliverability isn't impacted. So you really need to test now and not test over Black Friday, Cyber Monday. One thing that we're doing, and I don't think you would need to implement this necessarily, but it's cool if you're doing a deal styled structure like this. We have a 12 days of Christmas promotion that we're running for a couple of our brands, actually. So we're sending them out via email every day, because it's email. You can easily delete it. People are used to receiving promotions via email. We're sending a text, though, to all of our contacts in advance, asking them if, like, basically how they want to be communicated with for those 12 days of deals. So you have the option to say, I only want to receive the best of the best, in which case, like, you're only going to get 2 reminders about the 12 days of deals. You also have the opportunity to say, you know what, don't text me at all, which for us is fine, because if you already purchased from us from Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we don't want to pay the cost of sending you 12 text messages when you're not going to be converting. And then the third option is, yeah, I would like to receive all 12 days of Christmas deals. So we're asking that and allowing contacts to tell us their preference communications. Same would apply, and you've seen this done with a couple of brands where it's like Father's Day promotions or things like that. And we'll send out like a text from the founder basically asking, we know it's a sensitive time for those who like have lost their fathers or something. Do you or do you not want to receive our communication around this day? And so it allows us to help personalize that communication and make it more of like a one-to-one relationship between the brand and the customer. Last is lead capture. So implement SMS lead capture on your site if you don't have it already. And specifically look at implementing it for exit intent. So if somebody's not purchasing on your website and they try to leave, have the SMS pop-up come up with some sort of an offer that catches their eye and attention and gets them to convert. And then last is the Instagram link click stories. Post one. It's not very difficult. It doesn't have to be crazy creative. Just post one story, save it as a highlight on your page, and that way you're going to be getting all that evergreen SMS lead gen over the BFCM weekend.
Awesome. So a few questions are coming in on this. The first one is, how are you segmenting SMS subscribers by frequency? That seems like a pain.
And is that in relation to the 12 days of Christmas specifically?
Yes.
Okay. So basically we just set up one campaign, and we're going to be sending it out on like December 1st or December 2nd. And the text goes out, and based on how the customers reply, that automatically creates, like, that segment is already set up. So if they reply with a 1, it's going to bucket them in the do not send me any Christmas deals. If they reply with a 2, it's going to bucket them into the send me the best of the best. And if they reply with 3, it's going to bucket them into the send me every deal. So we've already identified which 2 deals we're going to send to that second group. And we've already identified, for the third group, they're going to get every deal. So when we're doing those sends, that's how we're splitting it up. It really isn't that complicated. It's just setting up those 3 segments in Attentive or whatever platform you're using. And then when you do go to send your campaign, just select the one that is supposed to receive it.
Got it. Yeah, we had a few questions in terms of like, is that through Attentive or it's through Klaviyo? So it is through Attentive for that campaign, correct?
Yeah, any SMS platform that allows you to do conversational flows. So you actually could work your way around it in like a PostScript based off keywords. So like you could send out a text and send 3 keywords in that text, and then your contacts would have to reply with the keyword, and that would put them into that keyword list, which you could then use for segmentation moving forward. You could do the same thing for email though as well if you wanted to. There are ways that if a contact clicks on a certain button in a Klaviyo email, it'll automatically change or create a contact property for them in Klaviyo. So you could use this similar strategy for email. But for us, SMS and personalizing that communication is like of the utmost priority. For one, because it costs money every time we send that text. And second, it's like an extremely personal form of communication. You're getting these texts right next to like where your mom texts you is how I sort of phrase it. So it's very prime real estate, and we don't want to see our opt-out rates skyrocket over the holidays.
Great. And then in terms of exit intent lead capture, are you or your clients using an offer to sign up for SMS, or are you sending an offer in the SMS welcome series?
So I think the question is whether or not we're surfacing the offer immediately after they do give us their phone number. In the case of SMS, we are not surfacing the offer right away, because if you're doing it on desktop, you'll have to reply Y to the text that you receive in order to get that offer. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll have like a standard email offer. Let's just say it's like 10% off your first order. And then maybe the SMS offer on that 2-step screen is 20% off plus a free gift. So if you don't sign up for SMS, you're still going to get the 10% off for the email. But if you do sign up for SMS, you just have to go to your text and reply Y to get it. That's only on desktop though. On mobile, we always use tap to subscribe. So you have to tap to subscribe, and then you get the text thread, press send, and then that's where you get your offer. So desktop a little bit different, but mobile, very seamless experience.
Great. And then a follow-up question to that. So what is the SMS sign up exit intent yield versus an offer to buy in the exit intent? So if a user is already on the site, wouldn't it be easier to try to get them to convert right then?
So the only issue is that you do have to do that double opt-in confirmation for SMS. So like you could run an A/B test where you're just asking for email and giving the discount immediately versus asking for email and SMS or just SMS and seeing what the difference is. Frankly, it's going to differ based off of the brand, as well as whether it's on desktop or mobile. So I'd recommend just testing it. I have my assumptions, but ultimately it's going to come down to how your visitors interact and engage with your brand.
Great. And then one follow-up question onto that as well. So, or just an offer to buy right then, not necessarily an opt-in. So that same question as before. But would you be like, should we be offering them versus opting in for SMS, just having the offer right there?
Yeah. We have experimented with that before with like a tool like Yieldify, for example. Running an A/B test of just giving the offer versus just giving the SMS. And I don't want to keep repeating the same thing, but like I would just test it, like choose which one you want to test. I think that would be the test that I would implement, is like SMS lead or SMS opt-in versus just servicing the discount right away. The only issue is that with all these exit intent tools, they're trigger happy. So what is like, it'll trigger a lot of times when somebody isn't truly in fact trying to exit. So like, do you really just want to give them that offer without having them give you something? That's the one thing that I would just monitor pretty closely, because we have had issues with that in the past.
Great. And then one final question, this one's from me, but separate from SMS, knowing that we're very close to Black Friday, Cyber Monday time, if you had to, you know, again, that's not necessarily SMS related, but kind of give one word of advice or one trend that you think everyone needs to be aware of this Black Friday, Cyber Monday, what would that be?
So in terms of like how we're going about planning, like you should be done with your Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff, I would say early next week at the latest, like, because something is ultimately probably going to go wrong. And you're going to need that time during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, not to be putting together your campaign on Black Friday for Cyber Monday, but instead helping with customer support, making that the website is functioning properly. So like, make sure all of your ducks are in a row as soon as humanly possible, so that you're set up for success for that weekend. Another one, which we recommend regardless of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, is like, ask somebody on your team who isn't in marketing to go through your website and make a one-shot purchase and a subscription purchase, and just like give you feedback, because there will definitely be things that pop up that for me, like as a marketer, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is how I manage my recharge subscription, because I've looked at like 100 of them, versus somebody who is coming at it as just a general consumer. See entirely different things and have different like pain points, because it's not obvious to them how they need to interact with this tool or feature. So that's one thing I'd recommend as well, to make sure that your site is set up for success before that weekend.
Great. Thank you. All right. Well, I think that's all of the questions. Oh, one more just popped in. What does Brandon suggest for intermingling SMS versus email? So especially on flows versus triggers. So is it SMS first, then email, then SMS? How do you kind of balance the two together?
Yeah, so email is always going to have more volume. It's just the nature of the channel, and also because of the fact it doesn't cost anything when you do send out an additional email. So I'll use like the welcome flow as an example. If you opt in for both email and SMS, you're going to get both the email and the SMS welcome offer immediately. But then what we like to do is prioritize the higher converting channel. So we'll wait 2 days or 3 days, and we're running an A/B test on which time period of waiting is the best to do it. But we'll send the SMS text first, and then we'll move to the email, and then we'll move back to SMS. And so we're just sort of using the email and SMS to bounce back through the customer journey. In post-purchase, again, usually prioritizing SMS and then moving into email for things that are a little bit more like customer engagement or aren't necessarily as revenue driving. And then the one thing that I will note in terms of like the split of email and SMS also depends on your database and like how they interact and engage with it. You do have to keep in mind that some people are only going to be opted into email, and some people are only going to be opted into SMS. So you essentially need to have 3 flows for every flow, like one for people who are only opted into email, one for people who are only opted into SMS, and then one for people who are opted into both. Because if you don't, you could be missing out on some opportunities for those 2 cohorts that aren't subscribed to both forms of communication.
Makes sense. Any final questions coming in for Brandon? If anything pops up, we can go from there, but I think that pretty much wraps it up. Am I right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Great.
I hope everybody found this super helpful, and if there's any questions after the webinar as well, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to help.
Perfect. Yes. And we will be sending, like I mentioned earlier, a copy of the deck as well as the recording. And with that, we'll send Brandon's information to anyone. If you have any questions, we can make sure we get those answered for you. But thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you so much, Brandon, for leading the masterclass as well. It was really informative and insightful. And yeah, we'll talk to everyone soon. We'll make sure to be in touch.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Talk to everyone
everyone.
later.